Three, two, one. So, what is the connection between fitness and self-development? Why do we always try to work out, or why is this the answer to everyone's uh, dilemma of self-development? They're in a rut, they're depressed, they have a crappy business, they're not producing, and so they're trying to figure out what to do, and so they go for fitness. And I've done the same thing in my life, and I want to connect two different I want to show you a framework that allows you to see the bigger picture when it comes to fitness and self-development as a whole. And I'm going to be going in a deep dive, and I kind of go all over the map in philosophy and my frameworks, and then I bring it back and reconnect it. So stick around if you want to have your mind blown, but also just explore different topics that are very meaningful to people and very meaningful to you, very hopefully. So check this out, guys. In order to understand, you have to go all the way down to the first principles, all the way down to the most deep reasons why we work out and why we do the things that we do for self-development. And so I'm going to answer in this a series of questions, and those questions are going to lead to more questions, and those questions are going to lead to answers that very likely you haven't heard before, or at least not packaged in this way. So buckle up, guys. Here we go. So I've got on my screen here that are on my notes, what is the meaning of life? And the short answer to the question, what is the meaning of life? Welcome in. Is the short answer, the meaning of life is to survive. And how do we connect that to fitness? We're going to do that. And we're going to answer the question, when you're confused. Hello, Khalifa. Good to see you today. So, when you're confused, what can you always count on as the right answer? What's up, guys? So that's another question. So, what is the meaning of life? I'm doing great. And what is, when you're confused, what can you always count on as the right answer? And the short answer, I'm going to get into this. The short answer is to create rather than to destroy. I'm doing great, Khalifa. How are you? Where are you from? Let's hear where he or she is from, bro. Okay. And so what are the ways we can create? So I'm going to answer your guys' questions as they come in, but sometimes it'll take me a few minutes, otherwise I'll lose my train of thought. So we're answering the question to first to connect this to fitness and self-development. What is the meaning of life, right? And the meaning of life is to survive. And then we're going to go deeper into this. And what when you're confused, what can you always count on as the right answer? Um, I am 37, my friends, and so the right answer is to create rather than to destroy. And what are the ways we can create? We're going to talk about that in just a moment. So the idea here is, why is the meaning of life to survive? This is a very deep thing. I've been studying religion and philosophy for a long time, and I've been studying. I've just been a skeptical person. I've asked questions my whole life, and I've been not following the narrative that people of asking for permission and following the path that everybody wants you to follow. And so I've been sort of outside the mainstream basically my whole life, and so I can see things that other people that are sort of inside the cookie cutter environment don't understand. And so or at least haven't seen it from this perspective. So to survive, what is the meaning of survival, or what is the meaning of life? To survive, why? Because when you think about it, life is existence, right? Our entire existence is based on life. Whatever created us is life, and whatever created us becomes whatever created us in his image. Okay, I've talked about this before, that we know that God created us in his image, but even if you sort of exit out of the even if you use this outside of the Christian context, the idea is that if you study something that is in a certain environment, you can understand where it came from, right? If you find a animal on Mars, you can understand where that animal came from, even if you didn't know it was from Mars. You could understand the conditions if a scientist opened up a bird, say, or some weird animal from Mars, then it could see what it was made to withstand and therefore what it was from. And so if we came from life, then we are built to survive, and that is our purpose. And so I'm not talking about living immortal. I'm talking about living a, a about sort of the circle of life, right? And so if the meaning of life is to survive, and then and we can get into that more in another moment. But if the meaning of life is to survive, then what can you always know is the right answer when you're confused? What can you always count on as the right answer? You can always count on the right answer to be create rather than destroy. And we are inundated with things that with these industries and these people telling us to destroy our lives. Right now, it's all over the entertainment industry, and it's all over the world. There's all of these people telling us destroy, and they're not saying destroy, they're saying it's good. And so if if you believe in that you should always create rather than destroy, then you have to have these categories of what you can create. And so when you're having a bad day, you can always create something. So I have a rule in my framework that is create more than you consume, and create when you're upset, and use your anger to create, use your sadness to create, use your happiness to create. It's always coming back to create. And how does that connect to fitness? Because these are the categories of creation. You can, as a human, you can either create physical strength, which is through exercise. You can create solutions, which is in business and creative projects. You can create human connection and or a tribe. So you have your family, your friends, your community. And so when you exercise, you're choosing to create physical strength. And I'm going to talk about the circle theory that I have that shows how everything is connected. So, uh, going back, if the meaning of life is to survive, and in order to survive, you have to create, and in order to create, you have to push away, you have to enter into this framework and push away all of the stuff about all of the destructive things, then then you have these categories, right? Create physical strength, create solutions, create human connection, and create a tribe. And so now let me get to the circle theory. The circle theory is that you have these areas of your life that fulfill you, right? And this channel is all about building a meaningful life, trying to help men build a meaningful life, and to use that to create impact in the world and to do something that you're proud of. So you have to have a meaningful life if you want to help other people have a meaningful life. So, and if you want to serve people in general. So the circle theory is this, and this is how it impacts or how it connects to fitness. So there's about 6 different areas, and people categorize these differently, but there's emotional, spiritual, fitness, financial, nutrition, family, and community. All right, so emotional, spiritual, fitness, financial, nutrition, family, and community. So if that's the case, then you want to be at least average in all of these things if you want to have a meaningful life. You want to be able to have emotional stability. You want to be able to have spiritual strength. You want to be physically strong, and you want to be financially sound. You want to be healthy inside your body from nutrition, and you want to have a healthy human connection, which is through family. So, how does that connect to fitness? Well, the thing about fitness and the circle theory is that everything is a circle. And I've proven this in my life. When I was in a rut, actually, let's go back even further than that. When I first started my business, I just realized this connection recently, that when I actually started my business, I was on a fitness journey. Okay. And I started a business that had nothing to do with fitness, but I started the business, and that's the important thing. I started the business when I was on a fitness journey. And then I uh, I had a with my dad. He had an emotional crisis, and I helped him snap out of that through a fitness journey. I woke him up every day, knocked on his door, and said, "Dad, it's time to get up. We're going to work out." And when he was in that crisis, he slowly came out of it. Actually, it only took him a few weeks. Um, through fitness. And then when so we know some things about fitness that connect to the meaning of life. So one, they're very simple things, right? So when you are doing fitness, you are creating muscle. So you're aligning with the creation framework that I talked about earlier. When you're creating muscle, you're creating strength, and you're moving in a direction. Humans always want to move forward. They want to move in I just got a call, sorry about that. And the so you're creating muscle, so you're already on the right track. When you're confused, you create something. So create muscle is a good choice. Number 2, you're a you're adding oxygen. So you're creating health, but you're also adding oxygen to your brain. And so when you add oxygen to your brain, you actually impact your emotional health, and you impact your spiritual health. And so when you impact your emotional health, then you actually interact with people better, right? With your family, with your community. And when you go on a fitness journey, then you always start to eat better, or you start to uh, eat more intentionally, right? And this is how we connect all of these things. And so this is the circle theory, is that everything is connected, right? Just as the everything in the earth is connected. We all come from dirt, right? Everything in all of the ecosystem, it connects to each other, right? The bees pollinate and they make honey, and the sun gives gives food to the trees, and the trees give air to the humans, and the humans do this and do that, right? It's just kind of like Lion King, the circle of life. So when you are working out, you're actually hitting on all of the points of your self-development journey, which are emotional, spiritual, fitness, financial, nutrition, family, and community. And actually, if you take out fitness and you put in, let's say, emotional, then you can actually just do the same thing, and that's the circle theory. So if I'll tell you a story about when I was in a relationship crisis and how I got out of that. So basically, a long time ago, many years ago, when I was dating my girlfriend, we'd been together for a few years and I was unhappy, so I decided we have to break up because she sucks for some reason. And so I immediate after we broke up, I started talking to this other girl, and I got super depressed for whatever reason, and I said, "There's." I thought I was supposed to just break up with her and then I'd get happy, but it didn't work. So I went to a therapist, right? And so when I went to the therapist, I told him, come on, man. Like, I basically went there with the intention of him saying, yeah, you're doing the right thing. She was bad, and you're good, and you should go to be with that other girl or whatever. And because I had all this cognitive dissonance. And so the answer is coming soon. The punchline to the joke comes soon. So then when I went to that therapist, he was like, listening, and then when he got done, he just said, all right. And he gave me no answers. He just said, he gave me this stupid assignment that at the time I thought was dumb, and he's like, just write 3 things you're thankful for. And I was like, what? 3 things I'm thankful for. And so, but I'm desperate, so I just do the thing. So I start writing down 3 things I'm thankful for each day. And a few days later, I realized what was important to me. I realized what I actually had going on in my life, and I maybe even realized what I had with my girlfriend. And so then I realized I was retarded, and my wife my girlfriend at the time was not the problem. And I went back and did this 3-month long process where I tried to convince her to come back to be with me again. And long story short, we've been married for 8 years. We've been together for 14 years, except that break. And so the point is that my emotional when I fixed my emotional problems through a small thing of just focusing on what I was thankful for, then I fixed my family and community, a part of my self-development, part of my meaningful life. And so if you insert fitness, it changes your mind through oxygen, and it changes your emotions through all of the positive emotions that exercise gets through. It aligns you with the creation framework, and then you move forward. If you put in emotional and you focus on your emotional by doing something like gratitude, then it fixes all of the things. And so I've talked about this in another video, but basically I think of this as a merry-go-round, right? So the circle theory is basically a merry-go-round. If you have all of the different points of self-development on a merry-go-round, you have your emotional, spiritual, fitness, community, nutrition, financial, and you put them on this merry-go-round. Let's say you jump on the merry-go-round and you start to push off with your feet, right? And it, let's say you jump on the spiritual one, right? You jump on the spiritual section of the merry-go-round because it's kind of divided into sections with the bars. And as you push off, obviously the entire merry-go-round starts to move, right? And as it gains momentum, it pushes the other sections of the merry-go-round faster. And then that pushes that, and that pushes that, and it starts to gain momentum and it goes nuts, right? So this is how fitness jumps off your self-development journey, because one, it aligns with survival, which is the meaning of life. It aligns with creation, which is basically, in another way, the meaning of life. We're born to create things. If we don't create things, then we die. And we know this. Even Elon Musk said this, that anything that is stagnant is actually dying. Anything that is, so a population that's steady is dying. So just the same, a body that is steady in its fitness is dying. And a so when you connect all those things together, then you realize that you can always turn to fitness. You can always turn to start your self-development journey, but you can also insert any of the things that I talked about on that merry-go-round wheel, and you will start to turn in your life. You'll start to gain momentum. You start to gain traction, and this is how I've proved that this has worked in my life. Once again, I will just share quickly my story. I have always been an anti-establishment type of person, and I've never liked asking for permission. Had a problem with authority, and so I started a business. I've always been self-employed or had my own business. Started a business with no degree, with no education, really, not the conventional kind, and was able to create my entire career around that business that I started with no experience and no degree, and uh, basically just some knowledge from some books. And I created my family around that same idea. I broke all the rules in building a family. I broke all the rules with how much time you get to spend with your family. I spend like hours a day with my family, and I still work a lot, but I just managed to do those things, and I focus on having a meaningful life rather than just having, a lot of money, or super health guru or whatever. I focus on having a meaningful life by having emotional, spiritual, fitness, financial, nutrition, family. I'm always trying to grow those things. And so this is you if you guys haven't seen my actual videos, this is just a live where I'm just going off the cuff and talking. But check out my videos where I have them a little bit more organized. I have some stories in there that help you understand, illustrate these things. And if you guys have questions, feel free to put them in the comments. And I hope to see you guys on the channel. Peace.